morning and thank you for joining us. The conflict over Ukraine's future escalated yesterday into the bloodiest day of violence since protests began. With over 100 people thought to have been killed, Moscow encouraged Ukrainian President Yanukovych to crack down harder on the unrest and threatened to withhold crucial financial aid if he didn't. Meanwhile, the European Union announced limited sanctions. To try and make sense of it all, we're joined in the studio by the Foreign Affairs Editor for Channel 1 IBA News, Oren Nahari. Thank you, Oren, for joining us. And on a more personal note, we're also joined by a Ukrainian student who was at Maidan in Kiev just a month ago, Elina Pasihova. Good morning, Elina.
Hello.
We're going to see a quick report that sums up yesterday's events.
Another day that started with hope for reconciliation turned quickly into a bloodbath in Ukraine. According to the opposition, at least 100 people lost their lives Thursday, while authorities reported 22 casualties. The clashes began just a few hours after President Viktor Yanukovych announced a truce, and opposition leaders agreed to abide by it.
This is the truce.
It is still unclear who broke the truce, the police, protesters, or perhaps both. Either way, Kiev is still in flames.
I'm appealing to every single citizen to protect your life, health and property. Together with your neighbors and friends, please do not allow crimes on your streets. All of us are responsible to stop the bloodshed.
Some athletes even announced they would quit the Sochi Winter Olympics in protest of the ongoing violence in Ukraine.
I have decided not to take part in the slalom, my favorite discipline, because of the horrible events that are happening in the capital of my Ukraine, in Kiev's Independence Square.
Meanwhile, world leaders are increasingly determined to find a proper solution to the crisis.
It is not right to describe protesters as terrorists. A great many of them, of course, are simply seeking a better future for their country.
The responsibility to stop this violence rests squarely with those in power, and we urge them to do so as quickly as possible.
In the last few days, the clashes have spread to other regions in the country. In the western city of Lviv, the regional assembly announced independence from Ukraine, and in Krakowierz, protesters blocked the way to the Polish border. Might be too soon to determine, but more and more people describe the situation in Ukraine in a term they have tried to avoid using thus far: civil war.
And that was a report by i24news correspondent Uri Shapiro. We're joined now from Kiev by Channel 9 Israeli journalist Andrei Kudinov. Good morning, Andrei. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Can you give us a little background of where you are and what you heard throughout the night?
So throughout the night, I have to admit, it was quiet on the square and on the barricades. But during the day yesterday, I was on the square and I was outside the square. I definitely heard the sniper shots. I've seen the dead bodies and I've seen the wounded who were delivered to the Red Cross stations. So it was quite a harsh, bloody day yesterday, but towards the evening, it got quiet, and it was a kind of a ceasefire, unofficial, until the Rada, the parliament, just got a law which actually prohibits from the security forces to use the live armor.
And you said that you saw sniper. Does that mean that you saw corpses in the streets, in the square?
I've seen corpses in the square. I've seen wounded people, and I've seen security forces basically shooting people.
And of course, you're not alone there as a foreign journalist. There's probably many foreign journalists covering. What is the talk around among the foreign journalists? Is this, a situation that you couldn't have even expected? It really spiraled out of control within hours.
It gets out of control within minutes, basically, because when one side opens a fire towards the other side, and it's a deadly attack. So we don't even have a time between the foreign journalists to talk to each other. Basically, everyone is running, everyone is trying to take a cover, everyone is trying to get the best story and talk to the people. So I really can't answer your question because we don't even have time between the foreign journalists to talk to each other.
Okay. Oren, obviously we've been speaking about this every single day. On Tuesday, we thought there was going to be a reconvening of Parliament, a truce. The truce shattered within, as Andrei said, within minutes. There's two bigger players here coming out. We, of course, see the EU and the West and part of the United States, but also Russia is definitely...
Russia is much more important.
Okay.
Now, the problem is, first of all, we have to see, because on Sunday, the Sochi Olympics come to an end. And then all this smiling campaign of President Putin, the release of Khodorkovsky and Pussy Riot, he doesn't have to play Mr. Nice no more. He's got his Olympics, and now let's see how he behaves. And let's remember what Putin says, that first of all, it needs to be stability, okay, fine, and crash down the terrorist and the extremist. This is the same language that Putin says, or Bashar al-Assad, if you will, on Syria, for example. Now, Putin has a Project Eurasia. Eurasia is, let's say, the Soviet Union minus. With Ukraine, there is a Project Eurasia. Without Ukraine, there is only Asia. He cannot let go of Ukraine. He cannot, from his point of view. Now, Yanukovych, it should be said, is no Saddam Hussein and no Bashar Assad. He doesn't crack down. He didn't, until this moment, declare emergency. He didn't send the army to the streets, to Maidan. On the other hand, the moderates within the opposition, and there are several groups, they do not control the entire mob. There are some elements who are neo-Nazis, who are extreme right-wing, who are thuggish in their way. The leaders do not control every one of their factions, so to speak. And of course, Ukraine, and for many years has been, it's split down the middle, almost. On the Dnieper River, on the eastern side, and I say it very, very broadly, is the more Russian elements, the Russian-speaking Ukrainians, and on the west of the Dnieper, in Lviv, etc., this is the former Poland. They favor the EU. They want to join the EU. They do not want to be under Soviet or Russian control anymore.
We're seeing live pictures now coming in from Kiev. We can see it, of course, that it has calmed down relatively since what we've seen yesterday, but the protesters are still out there. The camps are still out there.
At the moment, there is peace. Again, there is a genuine one, it should be said, to lower down the flames, and the EU are speaking with Yanukovych, and they imposed sanctions. There are not extreme sanctions, but they are more harsh than I thought they would. Visa bans, and of course freezing specific officials, and freezing of funds, etc., etc. Yanukovych and the opposition want to lower down. Perhaps there will be some agreement on snap elections, but of course, elections are over. Whoever wins, the other side in Ukraine and, of course, its backers will not accept it.
And another big player, of course, is the United States, which has been relatively quiet.
Smaller player, it should be said. The United States presents its shock, its that there are dead people on the streets. The United States, as in the Arab Spring, is leading from behind, whatever it means. I don't think there is much meaning. So they say their opinion, and perhaps they are mulling some sanctions. But the United States is only, at the moment, speaking its opinion, no more.
Although the EU they're pointing a big finger at President Putin.
Of course, yes.
And that is the bigger picture, if you will. They're looking over Ukraine
and they are speaking, and the EU are speaking with Putin, and they agree that the calm should come to the streets of Kiev. Of course, Putin, from his point of view, said the calm should come when Yanukovych cracked down on the opposition, and the EU says that Yanukovych should step aside, or at least let the demonstrators do their thing. Again, I do not see any, well, there is room for compromise, but basically there is no agreement.
Right, and it's a bigger ideological war, if you will,
of course,
than we actually think. Elina, thank you again for joining us. You're a Ukrainian student here in Israel studying, and you were just at the Maidan a month ago, right?
Yes.
And what was going on a month ago? Because we know the protest started a while back, but it spiraled out of control. It became almost chaos within, as we've been hearing, also from Oren and also from Andre, within minutes.
Okay, 1 month ago it was more better than now. When we left to Ukraine, it was more security situation. And after, when I come to Israel, my mom called and my sister called me and told everything what happened. And I don't understand how it's good, because all over time we have a meeting, we have some conversation with power, but never it was like so terrible. Nobody killed, and everything was peace. And
you were protesting peacefully?
Yes, always.
And what were you protesting? Someone like you, a young female from Kiev, what were you protesting?
Do you remember the 30th of November was big meeting, and special police started crush the students. And after people was so disagree with these attacks, so they give up. It's not just political, no, because we want proud. I want proud to say I'm from Ukraine, and it must work. So a lot of people come to Kyiv and they start staying Maidan. And after attacks was again and again, and so much people come to Maidan, stay for his independence. It's just for independence, not just political situation.
And you also want to disattach yourself from Russia.
Yes, and but it's not correctly just political. No, we feel it, but we very want to change something.
Okay.
But we want to be feel security, more security in our territory.
And are you in touch now? You said you spoke with your mother and your sister. Your friends, are they still protesting? Are they still out, even in the bloodiest clashes?
Yes, all my friends, biggest part of them stay in Maidan in Kyiv, biggest part of them in Lvov, in Odessa, in Vinnytsia, and it's hard to speak with them because every day they call me and told everything what has happened, and I'm crying all over the time. It's very, very hard because a lot of people shoot, a lot, we don't know where a lot of people who was after attack. We didn't know what has happened with them. And my sister worked volunteer all over the time in Maidan, so when she called me yesterday and told with me everything okay, for me it was more important.
Right. And what do they think is going to happen? And what do they want to happen? Do they want to, you know, are they looking to leave Ukraine, or are they saying, no, we're going to stay here until we achieve our goals?
No, they stay in Ukraine actually, and it's just the opportunity, or government start speak with the people, or it will be like Yugoslavia, and we didn't want about it.
Yeah, and I'm sure when you started protesting in November, you never thought it will become to this.
No, it was without any political symbols. It was just the students, and they told Ukraine, it's Europe, and that's all. It was very cute atmosphere. And
May I add something?
Yes, please.
We cannot disattach it from history. There's no such thing, only students. We have to remember, let's say, Second World War, the history of Ukraine nationalism. In the 30s, Stalin murdered, no other way, in starvation, more than 6 million Ukrainians. 10 years later, the heroes of Ukraine who fought for independence from Russia, but in order to do that, they cooperated with the Nazis, with the collaborators, are people like Stefan Bandera, the hero of West Ukraine. In Kiev today, you see these twin Ukraines. On the one hand, you see a statue, one of the last on the face of the earth, I believe, of Lenin. And next to him, you see Khmelnytsky and Petlura. So you see both of them. You see, and from Russian point of view, these people on the streets of Maidan, they are the descendants of the collaborators with the Nazis, which is an anathema to Putin. It is a clash of identity within Ukraine and, of course, between Russia and Western Europe.
And you spoke about the different opposition groups that are out there, neo-Nazi thugs and so forth, and of course students and
one part of it. Many of them are, of course, are students, and not only people from Kiev, people who want to have their future, and they see that their future is with Western Europe and not with Russia. We have to remember that on all the countries that Putin puts under his heel, not in not one of them, the people, maybe the governments do, but the people never want to join Russia, not in Moldova and not in Ukraine and not in the Baltics and not everywhere. They prefer Europe, they prefer the West, they prefer freedom, they prefer capitalism and the welfare state, etc., etc. No one wants to be under Russian influence.
Elina, do you agree that you don't want, you're looking towards Europe, but Europe is not really doing that much to help?
Yes, of course, and it's a big question for us. No, we didn't want with just Europe, we want to stay Ukrainian, like full Ukraine, but we don't know what does happen between Russia and European, because nobody can help, seriously. And when you wrote about Maidan in another paper or a magazine, you wrote something. What is it? It's really, I was here. It's not correctly true, because everyone say it's so cute. No, it's not cute. People nice, yes, seriously. We stay for one idea, but they not so cute how everyone to say, and it's very interesting why Europe so long time never asked and never told and
never interfered before. What do you expect the world now to do? Of course, the clashes have gotten out of hand. We heard from Olin that there's bigger players, Russia, EU, and the US. What do you expect the world to do?
Maybe just help for Ukrainian people to be again more freedom. I don't know. Just.
Okay. I wish the best for you and your family. Thank you for joining us today, Olin Nahari. Thank you for joining us. And after the break, we're going to hear much more from the House of Cards, the world that is going crazy over the second season of the political drama. But first, let's hear some more of this morning's headlines.